welcome back to Learning with Liz. On today's video we are looking at getting the most out of your teacher training year. If you have not visited my channel before, hello, my name is Liz and I was a teacher trainee 2 years ago now, so I did the SCITT provider, and what I do here on this channel is give you tips and tricks on how to get through your teacher training year, because it is a little bit of a difficult one, so the more advice the better. And on today's video I've got loads of advice for you. So YouTube is mainly where I give this advice. I also have an Instagram account and I also have a TES shop as well for you to access free downloads of lesson plans and anything else that would be quite helpful, especially for RE teachers in England. I have summarised today's video with like a little bit of an acronym to try and help you remember how to make the most out of your teacher training year, and it is I Keep Mo. So a little shout out to The Simpsons. So the I stands for involved, getting involved. The K stands for keep in touch. The E stands for Eisenhower Method. The other E stands for evidence bundles. The P stands for PPA time, the M stands for mental help, and the O stands for observations. I keep Mo. Okay, so we will start with I, getting involved with your placement school as much as you can. So it's essential that you do this for your Teacher Standard 8 to try and sort of support the ethos of the school, but also the more you put in, the more you get out. So are there any clubs that you want to be joining after school, lunchtime, to make your time at school as enjoyable as possible? So are you wanting to join the staff choir? Are you wanting to help out with the drama club after school? Are you wanting to be a part of the Christian Union if your school has something like that? The more things you can do to sort of really immerse yourself in the placement school, the more enjoyable it will be, because it's a great opportunity for you to speak to different teachers, to give you more advice on whatever you might be struggling with, and then also it's a great way to see the students in a different sense. So they might be completely different out of the classroom environment than they are in an extracurricular club, and that could be a really great way for you to build up professional relationships with the children. I would recommend that you get involved with as many clubs as you can, because it's a great way for you to be able to get to know the different teachers and get advice on something that you might be struggling with that week, and you might have not have come across them before if they're not in your department. So that is a really helpful way to get more advice from peers, and then also it's a great way to get to know the students in a different sense. So if you are struggling with one particular student in your class, it could be that you just need to get to know them in a different environment. So they could be completely different in a club in comparison to what they're like in the classroom. So if you build up that professional relationship, that is a super big tip for behaviour management. So getting involved with the school as much as you can for your Teacher Standard 8, but also for yourself, and enjoying your placement. Okay, the K. The K stands for keep in touch with fellow skitters. So it can be a difficult year, the teacher training year. So the more people that are going through the same experience as you, keeping in touch with them, having a chat with them, it's going to make the experience a lot more manageable for you. So can you create a WhatsApp group? Can you create a Facebook group? Can you create a Snapchat group, or anything that you can sort of be keeping in touch, helping each other out virtually and online? But then also, what about if you can arrange like a Tuesday lunch club with your fellow skitters, so you can just sort of have a debrief, see how the week is going throughout the time. So this, obviously I've been mentioning sort of skitters, that's obviously if you're part of the teacher training provider school centred initial teacher training, but it's so applicable to any other training provider as well. You can just keep in touch with the people that are on placement schools with your PGCE or Schools Direct, etc. So keep in touch virtually and in person as well, because they can be sharing wonderful advice with one another. Okay, the first E stands for the Eisenhower Method, and this was so useful for me during my teacher training year, because you sort of realise as you start teacher training that your to-do list is never ending, and you need to find more manageable ways to make you feel more satisfied, because you can't necessarily tick off everything on that to-do list. So the Eisenhower Method is a little grid that can hopefully come up on the screen so you can have a look at how it works. So this grid is really useful for you to put all of your to-do list things and schedule them in, and that's going to be the main thing for adjusting into your new teacher world. How are you going to, like, what order basically are you going to do the to-do list in? So there's different things in this grid. There is urgent and important, which would be like the do it now section. So different examples of what this could be is you've had a tricky lesson and you need to communicate to the parents of the student what has just gone on in that lesson before the child gets home, so you can have that open communication between parent and teacher. So that would be something that you do now, like after the lesson, if like at break time, at lunchtime, after school, depending on when you had that lesson. Make sure you have that phone call home, because it will be important, so you can have a fresh start in the next lesson. There is also urgent but not important. So this could be something that you could delegate to someone else. For example, if you need photocopying doing for your next lesson, but you're like rushing around, you're feeling a little bit panicked, can you delegate it out? Is there someone else in your department that can go to the photocopier, because they're going to the photocopier as well, and you can kill two birds with one stone? Or could it be that you need to fill your water up because you're teaching throughout the afternoon and you're not going to have the chance to be able to fill up your water, and it is urgent that you stay hydrated, but it's not important necessarily. Like, you can give that to someone else. You can give someone that's going to go to the staff room to get a coffee. Can you give them your water bottle as well? That would be in the urgent, not important section. So there is another little section which is not urgent, but it's important, and you can decide where you are when you're going to do that basically. So can you schedule it in for maybe some point in the afternoon to do, sometime in the evening, etc. But make sure that you're maintaining a healthy work-life balance as well. You shouldn't be doing things like past 10 o'clock at night. Maybe you can do it before you leave school. That could be quite important for you to make sure that you maintain that healthy work-life balance as well. And then finally, the last section is the not urgent, it's not important, so delete it. This could be something like you are literally spending 3 hours of your day on social media and you're needing to sort of cut down that time, and you can use your time better elsewhere. So can you be limiting like your social media time, for example, to like 1 hour a day or half an hour a day, because then that just opens up so many more possibilities of using your time for different things that might be in the urgent, not important section, etc. So hopefully give that a go. Obviously it doesn't work for everyone, the Eisenhower Method, but I found it really useful just to try and manage and schedule my time a little bit better. Your other E stands for evidence bundles. So depending on your teacher training provider, you will throughout the year have to show some proof to the powers that be that you are ticking off those teaching standards. So for SCITT, they classed as sort of like evidence bundles. They used to be sort of paper copies, and now it's moving more electronically. But what is it that you need to do to prove to your provider that you are an ACE teacher, and when are you going to do that? I would suggest you doing your evidence bundle, your proof, week by week, and not leaving it until the last minute, because there are so many teacher trainees that do that because they're a little bit overwhelmed with the balance of the weeks when they're sort of taking more teaching hours on, and they just leave it to the last sort of 2 weeks of the term or something. And I mean, it's just stressful to watch, never mind you being in that position. So make sure you are doing it week by week. I know that when I had to do my evidence bundle, it was a series of 8 lessons, and I did it literally one lesson. I got all the PowerPoints, I printed them off, I was sticking little post-it notes on to show this is the teaching standard here. I got all my class data all ready, just so then for the next week, week 2, I could focus on that week, printing off the PowerPoints, etc., sort of writing the reviews for that week. So make sure you are taking it week by week, and not leaving it until the very end, because you want to make sure that your future self is like thanking you, not hating you. The P for I Keep Mo stood for PPA time. This is like your personal professional development time. So you usually have set hours in your timetable, basically off timetable for you to be focusing your time wisely. So this is not teaching time, it's planning time. So make sure that if you have like a little timetable that you've created, maybe you actually bullet point, this is what I'm wanting to achieve in this hour. This could be, this is my mentor time for this hour, and this other time is my subject development time where you're building your confidence up with that. Another PPA time could be you writing down your review and your reflections on the lessons that you delivered that week. So make sure that you're making the best use of your PPA time. It could be that other weeks it's getting to know the department a little bit more. You're wanting to build those relationships up. So it could be that you're having a little chat with the people in your department or in the humanities section, etc. And it could also be that you are using that time for other observations that you've not had time to do in your future placements, but I'll come to that in a second. Your M stood for making the most out of your mentor and your subject department. There have been many people that have been in the department before you. I am sure there are many people that are going to come in the department after you, but they are fountains of knowledge. So any questions that you have, if you aren't able to find your mentor, ask those questions to your subject department. They are going to be so helpful, and they're going to be like people to laugh with throughout the year, people to cry with throughout the year, and you might make really close friendships with the department and your mentor as well, depending on your professional relationship with them. But whatever questions that you have, make sure that you ask them, because they're the guys that are doing this day in, day out. They're doing your subject to loads of different classes, so make sure that you come to them with any questions and queries, as well as the sort of teacher training provider. And finally, the O stands for observations, and this one is one of the most important pieces of advice that I could give out, best till last. So observations. In your first placement, you are going to be having a lot of hours, depending on your training provider. You tend to get a lot of hours on observing different teachers, and it is so valuable to use this time wisely. So it could be that you are, it could be that the first sort of week you're in the subject department observing different teachers for your subject. It could be the next week your mentor says, I want you to go to a different faculty. If you're an RE teacher, go into a history lesson, go into a geography lesson, see how they deliver their content, if it's a little bit different or if it's the same, if they're transferable skills that you can use for your lessons as well. That will be really valuable. And then other things to think about, so it's not just other subjects you want to see, because that could be really useful to see how different students respond to different subjects, and make you realise, okay, maybe if I've got a really difficult student, if I see them in a different lesson, that puts my mind at ease, because actually they're really tricky in different lessons. But it's also thinking about what are you like as a person, and can you find another teacher that is quite similar, and make sure you go and observe them teaching. There are such a range of teaching styles out there, and it's time for you to sort of play with this. Which one are you going to adopt? Which one is right for you? Making sure you're being genuine with your teaching. So really observing loads of different teachers to try and figure out which one is right for you. So for example, questions to think about. How tall are you? How low or high or deep is your voice? Are you quite good at projecting your voice? Are you naturally quite a calm person? Start really analysing who you are, because then you can try and figure out which classrooms you should go to and observe, because it's all well and good seeing, like for instance with me, it's great if I were to see a really tall man with a really deep voice that's quite intimidating and see what his behaviour management is like. That works for them, but that certainly would not work for me. I am small, I have a high-pitched voice, I am quite calm, but I'm like naturally quite an energetic person, if you can't already tell. So I can't necessarily adopt genuinely his behaviour management technique or his teacher style. I would find it a lot more valuable going to another female teacher's classroom that is a little bit more similar to me and seeing how she manages the behaviour in there. So really make sure you go to such a diverse range of teachers' rooms to observe, but make sure you try and find someone that is similar-ish to you, so you can try and think, okay, how would I do that? Because we're quite similar people. So please make sure throughout your teacher training year that you observe as many people as possible. Brilliant. So to summarise, I keep Mo. Get involved with the school. The K stands for keep in touch with your fellow teacher trainees. The E stands for the Eisenhower Method. Give that a go of trying to organise your skills. The other E stands for evidence bundles, making sure that you're collating everything week by week so it doesn't become overwhelming. The P stands for PPA time. Use it wisely. And the M stands for mentor and subject department. Use their knowledge because it's going to be so helpful for you. And the O, and most importantly, stands for observations. Make sure you use those hours really wisely because it's going to be so beneficial for you. So before I send you off, enjoy your teacher training year. It's such an exciting year for you to develop and become a teacher. It is literally like you are giving birth to a brand new person, a brand new profession. You're going to be so proud of yourself at the end of the year. If you have any other questions or comments, please just drop a little comment down below. Let me know if there's any other videos you'd find really helpful as well. I try and comment and reply to each person. So thank you for those people in the past that have done those questions and comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe because there's going to be more content based on how to make the most out of your teacher training year and providing you tips and tricks to get through the year successfully and happily. Until next time, goodbye. The O, the last one, the last melon.